Cars, right? The externalities of automobiles. Similar to other economic externalities are the measurable difference in costs for other parties to those of the car proprietor, like costs not taken into account when the car proprietor opts to drive their car. According to Harvard University, the main externalities of driving are the local and global pollution, the oil dependence, traffic congestion, and traffic accidents. Well, according to a meta-study conducted by Delphi University, these externalities are congestion and their scarcity costs, accident costs, air pollution costs, noise costs, climate change costs, cost for nature and landscape, cost for water pollution, cost for soil pollution, and the cost of energy dependency. Cars are really expensive, and it's more than what we're just paying for. Now, these negative externalities seem to be the most obvious to confirm, since a driver doesn't take into account, for example, the negative effects of air pollution on third parties when they opt to drive their car. The legislators and regulators shall, therefore, internalize those external costs, either by taxes on fuels, for example, either by any kind of limitation on car use, like parking meters or urban tolls. Even including those fees, it seems like drivers in some countries already pay some external costs with taxes. Road taxes in the Netherlands, for example, have a relatively high yearly value, and that covers the maintenance of the infrastructure. Even then, the most Western nations, the external costs of driving are not totally covered by taxes or by any other kind of car usage limits. Our increased reliance on the automobile leads to increased road congestion. While expansions in road capacity are often touted as relieving congestion, induced demand often means that any reductions in congestions are just temporary. Cars are the leading cause of fatal traffic accidents in many countries, and cars are the leading cause of death of youth and children. Back in 2010, car crashes in the United States resulted in 32,999 deaths and a projected $871 billion cost to society, about 6% of the United States GDP back in 2010. Road traffic accidents cause social costs, including material damage, administrative costs, medical costs, production losses, and immaterial costs. What's an immaterial cost? Well, that's lifetime shortening, suffering, as well as example like pain or sorrow, which can arise from death injuries. Material costs are often covered by insurance, and also the market price of these costs are available. But this doesn't hold for any immaterial costs and proxy cost factors, because these costs aren't sufficiently covered by private insurance systems. Now, air pollution. Cars produce numerous harmful pollutants in their exhaust, like nitrogen oxides, particulate matter, low atmospheric ozone, and in the case of leaded fuel, lead. These pollutants are known to cause various respiratory and other health issues, and cars are among the leading causes of smog in modern developed world cities. External costs which can arise from using cars and trucks in everyday life are of many different kinds. It covers also material costs, like damages to buildings and materials. But health costs are really the most common. In this case, cars can cause cardiovascular and respiratory diseases. These costs have to be paid for by society as a whole. There's also quite a high number of available studies on the methodology of air pollution costs, as well as the applications of these methods. You look at health effects. The aspiration of air transport emissions increases the risk of respiratory and cardiovascular disease. That gets caused mainly by carbon monoxide, nitrogen oxides, and hydrocarbons. In more detail, carbon monoxide reduces oxygen in the bloodstream, causing breathing difficulty. Now, nitrogen oxides, that reacts to help form ozone, well, that impacts asthmatics and visibility. Building and material damages, like my rooftop here, you got soiling of building and corrosive processes caused by acidifying pollutants. Crops are killed off, and you've got acidification and eutrophication of water bodies. Cars significantly contribute to noise pollution. While in common perception the engine is the main cause for noise, at city speeds the noise produced by the wheel alone on the asphalt is commonly the dominant factor, while at highway speeds air friction noises become a major factor. According to some of the available literature, there are two types of negative impacts. There's the cost of annoyance, meaning disturbances that can change into social as well as economic costs. And we've got health costs. Health problems can arise from the noise where the noise is louder than 55 decibels. Especially stress reactions are the most common. These reactions are like increasing heartbeats and blood pressure when car noise is really loud. Climate change is significantly caused by human activity, particularly the production of greenhouse gases and their release into the atmosphere. Cars produce more carbon dioxide per passenger kilometer than any other form of land transport. In addition to that, nitrogen oxides are also greenhouse gases. Transportation is considered as a large contributor to global climate change, and especially in the United States, something like 80% of global carbon dioxide emissions arise from moving cars and trucks moving goods. Many people understand that what contributes to greenhouse gas emissions is the style of driving and the length of a trip. Less known fact is that when you consider the measurement of emissions is how it changes with the changing speed of the vehicle. Traffic congestion is dangerous because of its effect on society. Besides increasing the risk of injuries arising primarily from high-grade roads together with the high noise, the main consequence of traffic congestion is an increasing level of emissions of greenhouse gases. We've also got a way to measure the relationship between driving and carbon emissions. So specifically, folks have estimated how to reduce these emissions through 3 improvements in managing traffic operations. Congestion mitigation strategies can reduce severe congestion and increase traffic speeds by using like ramp metering, incident management, and congestion pricing. Now, we've got speed management strategies that bring down excessive speeds to more moderate speeds of about 55 miles an hour through enforcement. And traffic smoothing strategies help reduce the number and the intensity and the acceleration and deceleration events. So you're not really gunning the speed limits to slow up and speed down. You need variable speed limits to limit traffic. Roads, parking spaces, and also suburban sprawl caused by cars need a ton of space. So typically, once agricultural uncultivated land is turned into even wider motorways and ever larger parking lots to accommodate the automobile, well, induced demand means any of this relief is temporary, and more surfaces have to be sealed in the process to build more roads and more parking lots. There's also the cost of water pollution. The lubricants and fuels that automobiles use are really harmful when they leak into the groundwater. Oil refineries, and particularly the mining of unconventional oil like oil shale and oil sands, can be really harmful for the surrounding water resources and bodies of water. In addition to the runoff from impervious surfaces like roads and parking lots, all of these things can be contaminated and load pollution into waterways. There's also the cost for soil pollution. In addition to the fertile topsoil often buried under freeways and parking spaces, cars directly and indirectly release pollutants into the ground. Oil can leak in the groundwater, and the common practice to clean cars in your front yard causes surfactants and soaps and other products in the cleaning products to pollute the ground. Similarly, salt is often used to keep roads and highways free of snow and ice, and these chlorides cause major damage to vegetation as well as being an aggressive substance linked to rust and corrosion. While trains and tramways often run on electricity, which can be generated through renewable sources or through local available fuel, cars by and large run on petroleum-derived fuels. Only a handful of countries are net exporters of petroleum. For developed countries, this causes a political dependence on a reliable petroleum supply and has been cited as a reason for the foreign policy decisions of the United States, among others. Just think of Iraq. For developing countries, petroleum products can be among the chief imports, and the reliance on automobiles can significantly impact our trade deficit and public debt of some of these nations. And we've got obesity. Some research indicates a correlation between urban sprawl and obesity. Car-centric development and the lack of walkability leads to the use of active modes of transportation, like utility cycling and walking, which is linked to various health issues caused by the lack of exercise.